20th, 2018. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and can we begin with the pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, I do have some additions to our agenda. The board needs to accept the audit reports for the Justice Court, Town Clerk, and Tax Receiver. We have an appointment to make for the Conservation Advisory Committee. From the village, there'll be two new members who will be appointed for that. And also, Marilyn Calaveras has asked for a few minutes of time to explain to us how broadband has been handled in some of our neighboring villages. Do we have any public comment? Can I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Made by John Merwin, seconded by Ralph Fidelli. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any public comment on agenda items only?
You want to speak about the,
just as a note, we're using new video equipment to record the meetings, and there is whatever you say during the board meeting, if you're talking with your neighbor, it might get picked up by the video recorder. So just FYI, don't say anything. You don't want to be recorded.
No cuss words.
Yeah. And yeah. And then the least amount of chatter will result in a better quality video. Thank you.
Silence.
Okay, I don't see anyone here from the police unless that was, no. Okay, then I guess we can go ahead with the highway department.
I am looking for authorization to advertise the following surplus equipment for sale on Auctions International. A 2000 International 2574 plow truck, a 2000 York 3-point hitch broom, 1999 Dayton 25 kW PTO generator, and 10-foot and 13-foot charcoal spreader screens.
Anybody, any thoughts on that?
no, sounds
If it's surplus material, and we certainly don't, if we don't need it, then we may just as well see if we can get some money.
Okay.
Everyone in favor of, can I have a motion to sell the equipment?
I approve.
Made by Ralph Fidelli, seconded by
I'll second.
John Merwin. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, the all-season dump body on the 2005 International plow truck needs to be replaced. It was refurbished about 6 years ago. It bought us another 6 years, but it's to the point now where it needs to be replaced. The truck's going to be around for another 7 years. So to make it a reliable tool for us, it needs to be updated.
Do you have any approximate cost?
Yes, actually I have a quote under the Oneida County contract. So the bidding's already been done for us. And it's $36,665. And that includes sandblasting the truck frame, priming and painting it while they have it.
Not an inexpensive thing, but something that's necessary if we're going to utilize that truck for the next 7 years.
And the money is in the highway fund.
The money is there, so it does not affect the budget. Can I have a motion to allow Bob to go ahead with that?
So moved.
Made by John Midwood, seconded by,
I'll second it. Chris,
By Chris
Chris
Kennedy.
beat me by us.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just a brief update on 2018 snow and ice control. As you can imagine, we've been very busy and it's been expensive. We have used 90% of our sand and salt budget at this point. So come September, I'm going to be asking the board to transfer some money to get us through to the first of the year. And we've used 65% of our overtime, which is not too bad. If we don't get hit real hard in the fall or early winter, we should be okay.
They're not predicting any more snow this spring. are
I'm
they?
not sure at this point.
Good.
No sense of anybody trying to predict what's going to happen this year. Then we will look at that later in the year when we know exactly what, sand and salt requirements are.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, very good.
Very good, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I see our assessor is here.
I don't have a public report. I know we're meeting later,
Yes.
but I just wanted to see if you had any questions or wanted to follow up on anything at this time. I know I have an agenda item later, my board member being appointed, but other than that, if there's anything else.
I don't have anything unless somebody else does.
Next Monday, Tuesday.
Okay,
See you later.
see you later. Thank you.
Planning, zoning, and building department is on the table, is it not?
Yes.
Or is there none this year?
No, this-
They're on the table.
Okay, it's on the table then. Okay.
So this has to go through the increase
Okay,
with
in town clerk's report, we have one thing she wants to discuss on our dog control.
our dog impound seizure fees. I provided that to the board. So the top three numbers are what we've been doing for the last several years and
And he feels we're not competitive with
Right,
local,
with other towns.
other towns in the area.
He's asked that we increase the fees.
Mhm.
And I think probably, if you check, probably the veterinary fees have gone up anyway for board. So, can I have a motion to accept the fees here for boarding dogs?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Made by Ralph Fidelli, seconded by John Merwin, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, are you finished? Is that all?
No, I just wanted to also say that Deputy Town Clerk Michelle Lull has tendered her resignation. She's taken on a full-time job. And we've advertised for that position in the paper, and I just want to thank her for her service to the
Right.
town in the last year and a half. She's done an excellent job. That's it.
Very good. Next is an update on culvert replacement. This is a saga which has been going on since we were awarded $225,000 for culvert replacement down on
No road.
down on Mill Road. And what's been going on is basically that originally when we put in to the DEC for what our plans were, they were accepted. After we got the award, then they put new stipulations on there. And we have been trying to meet those stipulations ever since. One of them is that we have to have a monitor there for bog turtles. The only problem is that where the culvert is being put in, it's flowing water going down through under the culvert, and bog turtles do not inhabit flowing water courses. They are they are probably, the habitat up in the swamp is good habitat for them, but where we plan on doing our work is not. Anyway, we're required to have that monitored there full-time, which is an added expense that has come on since then. They have also put other stipulations on there and would not agree to our plan. And in the process of asking what those stipulations were, they couldn't explain them to us. So it was practically impossible for us to meet what they would not explain.
I have a question. What does monitoring mean for bog turtle? Like a
It means
drill?
that there has to be a person there to visually check out the area during the whole time that we are doing the project. So anyway, I think after much discussion with them, they finally have consented to our overall plan. We're waiting now for them to give us a notice of complete application. And we will be going out for bids here very shortly. It has been posted in the Millerton News. And the big packages will be available for contractor pickup on Thursday, April 26th. And we'll be back for bid opening on May 22nd, 2018. We've already had one extension from the county. Very doubtful they're going to give us another one, so we need to get this done, otherwise we lose that $225,000. Next, I asked the board, in your packets there you have the town of Northeast Justice accounts, you have the town clerk and the tax receiver audit reports. There is nothing, they're very basic, there are no problems or anything detected, so it's just a basic report on that. Anyone who wishes to see these, they would be available here, or we can post them on the website. Can I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Made by Ralph Fidelli, seconded by Chris Kennan. All in favor?
Aye.
Next is, we have Jennifer Dowley here, who is interim director of the Northeast Community Center, and she's going to give us an update on the activities of the NECC.
Thank you, George. Shall I just stand here?
That would be fine. Actually, I'm not sure, with the camera here, now we have a little, can you get that? Okay.
Well, hello, everyone, and for those I don't know, I'm Jennifer Dowley, and the Northeast Community Center, as you do probably know, is a 28-year-old nonprofit based here in Millerton, right in the village on South Center Street. And our mission is to strengthen our community through social service works, educational projects, cultural projects, and recreational programming. And I have written up a one-page description of our programs. We look after and raise funds. We have about a $1.2 million budget this year to develop programs for toddlers. We have a complete after-school program that is now based at Weebatuck for grades kindergarten through 8th grade. And then we have a program for teens. We take them on alternative spring breaks. We have meetings and trainings for them, and we also have jobs for them. We raise and invest about $60,000 a year in paying teenagers, our teenagers from Weebatuck, to work in various businesses throughout the village and the town. And it's a terrific opportunity for them to be mentored by our business and merchant leaders, learn how, learn their first professional skills. And it prepares them, obviously, if they go to college and beyond, but it also prepares them to work if they don't go to college. In fact, one of their projects is taking place tomorrow. Tomorrow is Millerton Earth Day, in case you weren't aware of it. And it begins at 11 o'clock in the morning at the community center. Our teens are all going to be there. They're leading a village cleanup. They have their recycling bags, their garbage bags. They'll be all over the village. You'll see them up and down the rail trail. And they asked me to give you a gift. They designed this T-shirt. It is rather large, so you can pass it on to someone. Oh, yes, the camera, please. Our teens, Millerton Earth Day. And so there's one, Lisa, I'm so sorry I didn't bring you one, but I'll remedy that tomorrow. But there's one for each of you if you'd like it. The nice thing about this particular Millerton Earth Day is that in the past the teens had always just organized a cleanup day on their own, and this year we decided to talk to Townscape, the merchants, and the Conservation Advisory Commission. And so they are all, as you can see on the back of this little flyer, there's a whole schedule of things that are happening. Chris Kennan is making a presentation at the schoolhouse, as is Jon Arneson on the solar. There's Jon on the solar laws. The movie house is offering a movie on Sunday, and it's just generally a great opportunity to get people outdoors in our village, paying attention to our environment and how they can make it better. So you'll see numerous projects coming up. One of the things that we just had, and I have to really thank George for participating in that, about just a little over a week ago, 2 weeks, I've lost track of time, 2 weeks ago, we hosted a community conversation at the Legion. We were expecting, I have to say, we all thought if we were lucky, maybe 20 people, 25 people would show up. Well, it was over 80. We were stunned. And the sense of energy and positive commitment about our community was in the room. And in fact, I'm going to give you a call next week, George, and also with Debbie, maybe the three of us could get together. Are there ways that we could all work together with all these volunteers who are in the room, raising their hands? I want to work on helping develop more programs and opportunities for seniors. My neighbor who lives right down the road from me on Modoc Road wants to work on the opioid problem, and affordable housing popped up over and over again. So maybe there's a way. I know the comprehensive plan is hard at work at a lot of these things, but that room was filled with people who are ready to help, which was just wonderfully encouraging. So we will continue to do our best to live up to our mission, to make our community as lively and healthy and interesting a place as possible. And I will be there for the next several months. The board is in the process of searching for a new executive director, and they hope to find one by the summer, July or August. So I'll be there in the meantime. I also want to thank the town for supporting the Northeast Community Center with a grant of $5,500, which you have done for many years. And at George's request, I don't not quite know what, it's a contract, so I'll leave it with you to complete for this year, but it's enormously helpful to us. And we really appreciate the town's support of our work on behalf of the community. So I have nothing else really to add. Oh, one other thing that's just happening this last week. These wonderful 2 donors have materialized. They're sick of looking at our absolutely ugly playground right next to our building. And one of them said, how about I buy a new piece of equipment? And how about I get some topsoil donated? And another said, I'll chip in. So the whole playground right outside will be renovated in the next 6 to 8 weeks at no cost to the community center. And it really is a village playground. It's really designed for kids 1.5 to 6 years old. So it'll be something we can all be proud of, and you know, parents and grandparents with their little ones can come down and have a good time. So that's it for me, George. Is there anything else you'd like to ask about or want to?
Anybody have any?
No, that was very good, thank you.
Great, well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Next, we have several appointments to make. First on the list is appointments of 2 new members to the Comprehensive Plan Committee. First is Mimi Ramos, and the second is Bill Kish. Can I have a motion to make those appointments?
So moved?
Made by Chris Kennan, seconded by John Midwood. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is the an appointment to the Board of Assessment Review. And that appointment is Daniel Goldhagen. Can I have a motion to make that appointment?
So moved.
Made by Ralph Fidelli, seconded by Chris Kennan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The third is an appointments of 2 new members to the Conservation Advisory Committee from the village. Up until now, we have, there are 5 original members, and those are basically from the town. So this will add some village people to the CAC. And those appointments are Elliot Ramos and Lance Middlebrook. Can I have a motion to make those appointments? Made by Chris Kennan,
Second.
seconded by John Midwood. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
George, can I just make a comment about those?
Yes.
As you know, the town voted to join the Climate Smart Communities program, and the village is looking at also joining the Climate Smart Communities program. The task force which has been charged with carrying out that program is the Conservation Advisory Committee. And it would make a great deal of sense for the town and the village to actually do this together, because one of the things they do is, for instance, study things like streams and the Weevituk stream. And so it makes a lot of sense for that committee to have members from the village, which this now does.
George, how is our term segment going to work?
We're going to have to take a look at that. Normally, if you have 7 members on a committee, then it will work in 7-year segments.
Okay, so it's going to increase
So
the
it
term
will
up for
increase the
each,
term
for
from
everybody?
5 years to 7.
Okay, all right.
Okay, any other discussion on that or comments? Next is the IMA. I'd like to discuss the IMA with the village on the joint fuel and storage facilities at the proposed highway garage site. I think we all have copies of that. There are, I know that Warren has had it, Warren prepared it originally. The Ian McDonald from the village has had a chance to take a look at it and has offered some comments. And I think we here probably have a few comments that we wish to make as well. So I guess easiest way is I will lead off. I think even in the title here, it says intermunicipal agreement for the sharing of highway equipment, storage building, and fuel dispensing system. And I'm not saying that we certainly may not, there will be times that there will be sharing of highway equipment, but I don't think that this, at this time, is really an IMA covering that.
Well, it's a highway equipment storage building. We're not sharing the highway equipment.
Right. It's the building that was.
Just the building, yeah.
All right, so then I will. Another, in the access here to tanks and access to the building itself, it says in here that during town highway department's normal hours of operation or at such time when the town highway department is conducting operations. You're dealing with the village here, and oftentimes those hours may not correspond exactly with town highways. And they certainly need access during those periods. So we need to, put something in here maybe as arranged through mutually acceptable, negotiated times or whatever. But they're going to be fueling up vehicles and stuff, at possibly odd times as well. So.
Just so you understand, this is supposed to be a very preliminary draft, because we really can't decide what we're going to share and how we're going to share it until we really formulate plans and are pretty close to construction. So this was only supposed to be a working document for everyone to pipe in their thoughts, and I certainly want to hear from the highway superintendent and their highway superintendent. So I just created this. Nothing in here is ingrained in stone. So
the basic idea is right now what we need is both sides need to commit to the idea that we're going to be working together on this. The whole idea is that if it's only one side that's going to be working on this, then we'll proceed with that if that's what needs to be done. In terms of going for grants, other things, shared services, we need the village in with us, and we need their commitment. And that's the idea, is to bring them into this.
I understand.
Delivery of fuel, the next paragraph there. I think how this will probably work is that the town will be ordering the fuel. And it will be delivered when necessary, and the village will reimburse the town based on their fuel consumption.
We have to figure out what system we have to monitor that so we can determine how much the village takes out.
There'll be a computerized system, they'll have either keys or some
Yeah,
type of.
is there a name for that? I used, what system did I use in here? Did you take a look at this? Oh, okay, because I did identify a system.
Yeah, it's Fuel Master, I think.
Fuel Master, is that what you're using?
And
This is what other municipalities have used.
We don't have one right now, we're going.
Right, so we'll have to substitute whatever that system is.
I think that is the fuel system that has been discussed so far for this.
George?
Yeah.
When I went through the IMA, I was wondering whether, maintenance and repair is really part of the deal or not, because we're talking about the storage building. There is a village garage section in the main building, so I would think that they would be doing their maintenance and repair in that village portion, and that the storage should be only storage, but that was just my own feeling. I don't know how
That's
the
fine.
rest of the board feels.
I threw that in. I'm assuming that if they're only gonna be using one bay,
Right.
I mean, there's not gonna be a whole lot of maintenance area for them to.
It's going to be unheated, so I would imagine they would move.
Right,
either-
so they'll just use it for the storage.
Just for
Yeah, so we can
It would be
eliminate that.
Basically that, I wouldn't necessarily think that
You
we
won't
need to
preclude it,
take out,
'cause, yeah.
you know.
You know, we can
If
put
the
minor
village,
maintenance.
if the village portion of the garage is taken and they have to do an emergency repair,
Sure.
Well-
maybe you would use the storage portion, but
Right now, as we look at this project, probably the first phase will be the storage building up there. That may mean that there may be some, you know, repairs or, you know, maintenance going on within that facility, so.
Sure.
Access to the building, same thing here. You know, the village would definitely need that access to
Yeah, we'll
it
have to work that out.
other times.
That's what I want the input from the highway superintendent on, and that will determine on what type of building we build and what the access is to that building, and then we can work out the details on that.
Well, as the main building is set up, you know, there's a division between the two. Within this building, I don't think we're going to be able to have that same division set up.
No, they'll probably have to utilize ours.
shared is the important word there.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Shared agreement. Yeah, we can work those details out.
And I think that kind of covers those areas that I was looking at. And if anybody else has any.
Yeah, I had one question here. The assignment number 19,
Paragraph 19.
paragraph 19.
Hold on just a minute. And the insurance,
Oh,
Should it be without?
Yeah, without, yes, that was corrected actually.
paragraph
In
19,
the last version.
without, that's already been corrected.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
in the newest version. Yeah.
Good catch.
So are there any other comments or anything from the
No.
board?
Just, I'm glad you made the notation that this is a draft and that this is the beginning of a process. I think it is it's a really important move for the town and for the village. This is an opportunity which is not going to come around again for, possibly for a very long time to do something together. There are plenty of other communities which have found a way to share space like this, so we're hardly breaking new ground, but it is a leap of faith that the two can do something together, so I hope that will come to pass.
Yeah, these are not hard to put together. It's really the municipalities in New York State are encouraged to enter into sharing of services through intermunicipal agreements. So this is the trend. And again, there may be some grant money out that will help us as long as we can show a cost savings.
Well, and that brings up a point. We have a very important meeting that's going to be coming up fairly soon with the county, in which we're going to be exploring what grants, monies may be available here. So what I would like to get is general acceptance from the board here that with the corrections that we've discussed today, and what other ones that the village will come up with. They're working on theirs as well, and hopefully we'll have word back from them beginning part of next week. That Debbie and we asked for the authority to sign the agreements with those corrections so that when we go into these discussions with the county, we can say that we are all on the same page here, and it is truly a joint, we're going for shared services and a joint facility.
Will Debbie be in on those meetings?
Debbie will be on the meetings, yes.
Good.
George, is there a way in which we can express our support for this as a draft document? Because there are still blanks in it and pieces to be left out.
Well, there are pieces that will be satisfied afterwards. We still have, as you know, the majority of the funding is going to be coming from the town, from the A fund. And while it is from the A fund, that covers both village and town services. A very basically and simple explanation of the way the budget works. You have three basic portions to it. You have A fund, which covers both the village and the town projects. You have B fund, which is town outside the village. And you have DB fund, which is the highway department. The basic funding for this will be coming from the A fund, which covers both village and town. So I've heard different things about, well, why isn't the village more involved in actual payment? They are involved. The payment is basically the same no matter where it comes from, but it's easier to do it this way. What I would like is, as a draft document, the authority then to at least be able to sign that. Can we do this?
I think,
Because I need something to show.
no, the county's gonna want sort of more of a memorandum of
That's what I
understanding.
was gonna say.
Right.
Because when you get the grant, that will be, one of the requirements of the grant will be probably a more detailed intermunicipal agreement, and by that time, we'll have much more information on a lot of the meat that we're gonna put in this. So I think maybe we should the resolution, or what that you adopt would be that we consider this a memorandum of understanding between the village and the town, with the intent that we are going to enter into a intermunicipal agreement for the sharing of the storage building and the fuel dispensing system, generally as described in this agreement, assuming it's subject to them, with details of the agreement to be embodied in a more detailed intermunicipal agreement,
Right.
which the county will have to approve, so they're going to want to see that.
That makes sense.
And that way you have flexibility, you're not committing yourself to exact language that's in here at this point.
Very good. Need a motion?
Need a motion
I'll make that motion.
made by John Merwin, seconded by Chris Kennan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we would want the same thing from the village.
George, you'll speak to Debbie about this, about getting a memorandum of understanding from
Yep.
them? Okay.
Well, we will pretty much consider this as a memorandum of understanding.
That's on our part. They need to do
We'll
one
take
as
a look
well.
at it.
Isn't that what Warren just said?
Well, Ian's taken a look at this, right?
No, but what?
Yes, but most of his comments were not substantive.
Right.
So I don't know if they have any substantive, just changes in some of the wording.
We just, passed a motion basically, agreeing to. memorandum
Accepting
of
a concept of
understanding.
this
You
agreement.
just indicated that the village should do one as well.
Exactly.
That's-
We need a resolution from them. They're going to want to see that. The
Resolution
county's gonna-
approving
They
this.
can utilize the
memorandum
same
of understanding.
document.
Approving this.
Yeah. If
Right,
you want,
yeah,
I can,
yeah, what we just
I can
did.
draft the resolution that we just passed.
Right.
And send it to you Monday, so there's no misunderstanding, but essentially it will be a rewording of,
Right.
we're not adopting this, we're adopting this as a memorandum
And
of
a concept.
understanding with the details of the IMA to be worked out.
There you
But
go.
this is the basic framework for what, it's not gonna change much in the basic framework, unless you add a salt shed or something else to the agreement, something like that.
Good,
So I'll try to get that for you on Monday.
thank you. Next is a discussion to adopt the pedestrian. And I know, Warren, you had some comments on this.
Yes, I do. So I looked this over, and the problem from my standpoint, from a legal standpoint, is that the plan, first of all, relates mostly to the village. The town is involved somewhat in it, but it's a good percentage of it it deals with the village. And to really adopt this as part of your comprehensive plan, it really should be adopted by the village and the town as part of their comprehensive plan amendment. If we were to adopt this ourselves now as an amendment to the comprehensive plan, we have to move forward with a fairly complex process. We just can't adopt it. It's a type 1 action under seeker. We'd have to have public hearings. We'd have to do an environmental review. It has to be sent down to the county for 239M referral. We have to send it to our planning board for their comments. There's a whole host of procedural requirements that we would have to undertake to adopt it as part of our comprehensive plan. Since you have the comprehensive plan committee working on a revision to the comprehensive plan, I thought it made sense to refer this to the comprehensive plan committee so that they can fold it into their joint comprehensive plan, since it's for the village and the town, and they're going to be doing all of that environmental work when they adopt the comprehensive plan. Why do it twice?
Exactly.
What you can do at this point is just accept the study, just accept the study with the understanding that will be in the future, in the near future, hopefully, that'll be incorporated into the comprehensive plan. Because the other problem too is that once you adopt this as part of your comprehensive plan, your zoning has to be consistent with it. So there are things in here that talk about changes to your zoning. We'd have to go ahead and do all of that work, and all of that's going to be done by the comprehensive plan committee, we hope. And I think just a simple resolution receiving the pedestrian plan and forwarding it on to the comprehensive plan committee for consideration of incorporating in their comprehensive plan revision.
Right. I was the town's representative on the pedestrian plan committee, and I'm the town's representative on one of the town board's representative on the comprehensive plan review committee, and I agree with your assessment.
So if that's okay with you, that would be the resolution, and again, I'll put it into language for you on Monday so you have it. But basically, all we're doing at this point is accepting it. So we do accept the plan, acknowledge that it's been done for us. It still can be used by the planning board as a guide, but it's not part of our comprehensive plan until it's formally adopted. And I think that's the sensible way of proceeding.
Very good.
Any discussion?
I understand, it makes
I think
sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the resolution that's passed, and I'll just put it into formal language on Monday, so that's okay with it.
So I'll make a motion
Yeah.
to make the motion.
Made by John Edwards, seconded by Chris Kennan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Looks like a nice piece of work, nice job.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the draft solar law. And Noel Arneson's
Okay, thank you, George. I have here for the members of the board and also for Warren, copies of the current draft. So I'll just pass 3 down. I have also have copies of the Town of Rhinebeck law, upon which this is largely based, and on the model solar law. And I seem to only have 5 copies of that.
I have that, I don't.
You don't need it?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me, first of all, tell you where this stands. First of all, let me tell you sort of generally how or the conceptual framework for this. Basically, it divides solar systems into 3 parts. There are ones that are rooftop or building mounted or are built into the structure of the building. For those are permitted in all zoning districts except for historic districts. As of right, what they require is approval of the building department. And I should say that there are elaborate building codes and also energy conservation codes adopted at the state level, which you and I are never going to read. And we hope that that govern all of this, and there will also be a solar building permit, which is going to have to be adopted. There's a uniform permit, which I have in some of the materials I'm going to leave you. There's a New York State Unified Solar Permit. Then there are freestanding or ground-mounted systems which are to generate electricity for use on the premises, whether they be commercial or residential or whatever. Those will require a special use permit issued by the Zoning Board of Appeals. We part company with the model solar law here. The model solar law does not require a special use permit for these sorts of structures. They have standards, but they don't require a special use permit. The analysis of the committee, and I should also say that the committee includes not just me, but Julie Schroeder, Greg Osofsky, Lance Middlebrook, and now Ralph Fidelli. Our view was that the maximum opportunity for inter-neighbor disputes probably could arise in the placement of these kinds of systems, and that therefore by making it subject to a special use permit and having it go through the Zoning Board of Appeals, you then have an opportunity to make sure that you do appropriate screening to make them as unobtrusive as possible. So that is the second system. The third area are solar farms. And solar farms are obviously large installations. They're subject to a whole series of other requirements, the most significant of which is an obligation for decommissioning in the event that they are not, they no longer are in use. There's an obligation of property owners to take out a ground-mounted system which they're using for their own property if it is not being used. But with solar farms, they are required to either post a bond or alternately get town board approval. I think Warren had suggested that in some instances it may be difficult to get bonds.
That was the input that we got in 2 other public hearings when we tried to pass, when we passed the law, that they're not that readily available, removal bonds for these things. And the suggestion was, and I've seen it and that we put it in here, an agreement with the town that if they fail to remove when they're required, the town can go in and remove it and we can charge back the cost to the property owner.
Yeah. And it becomes a tax on the...
Lien on
It's a lien on the property.
Yeah, it becomes a tax on
And
the
they're
property.
not that hard to decommission. I mean, they're not, you're not talking about building a 10-story building, you know.
It's not $1 million to
No,
decommission
no.
by any means.
Right.
One of the other decisions that we made, and in here, was to permit the construction of a solar farm and other solar facilities on prime farmland, so long as it did not permanently remove the farmland from production. And this was from the Rhinebeck law. And the point about that is that because the solar facility can be decommissioned, can be taken out fairly easily, didn't seem to be a reason to restrict the construction on prime farmland. And there is prime farmland in the town of Northeast, which would be perfect for a solar field, as a matter of fact. So this seemed to us, that's ultimately a decision for the board. There's another thing that we did not do, and this is different from Rhinebeck, and this is something that I think that the town board needs to think about. We didn't put a size limitation on installations for use on people's property, and which Rhinebeck did. And this was following a discussion I had with somebody from NYSERDA, and his point was there is a limitation because if you are using it only for your own property, there sort of is a limitation. We also didn't put a limitation on the size of solar farms. And we went back and forth on this, both with NYSERDA and looking at the Rhinebeck law and so on. And I think it's a subject that needs to be discussed and may need to be discussed by bringing someone from NYSERDA down here to talk about the size. Also, Warren gave comments on an earlier draft of this, but he has not commented on this final draft, so this has got to be subject to his comments. In addition, I'm waiting to hear from comments from NYSERDA. Candace Rossi is now the person there we're dealing with. And also Ken McLaughlin, simply because I asked Ken, is the information that is being requested here sufficient, and or is it too much for that matter? Now, I don't know how the town board wants to proceed from here on in. As I was thinking about, and Warren, you may have some ideas on what should be done, because if you look at the sort of the introduction of the model solar law, we sort of have done this backwards. They're suggesting you form a committee, you hold public hearings, blah, 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 and then you get to draft the law. I think there should be I think it's very important to hold a public hearing, but I think I think it would be important if we can do it, and I will seek to arrange it, by the way, some public forum. If you get some people in to do some basic things, like saying, what's a kilowatt hour? How much electricity does a house use? What is the size of a solar farm? What is the, how much electricity do they use? Where does it go? There's also something called community solar. And for example, the town landfill strikes me as a wonderful place for a community solar facility in which you would have people in the town of Northeast actually buying in and, using the or getting the benefits of that. But also an explanation of the whole tax, the tax benefits of what, so on. I think this should all be done in a public hearing so that people will hear all of this. Finally, people are going to be very concerned about the visual impact of that. And so I think you need to talk about that, and you need to see some pictures. Now, the truth of the matter is that with something like a solar farm, you can't screen it from every point of view in a town. That just can't be done. And so this is, I mean, these are obviously all decisions for the town board, but at the end of the day, if you want to encourage solar power, I think you have to engage in some trade-offs, and I think there may be a visual trade-off. The town could decide that there are parts of the town where you would want to increase the setback. You have in effect an overlay district around, maybe Route 83 or something. Or maybe you would want to, you could forbid it in some parts of the town. But I think these are all things that we didn't feel we were qualified to, really explore, that they really needed to be explored in another context. There's one other thing which I am still waiting to try to get someone from Central Hudson to call me back on, and there is I have included in here an email to me from Candace Rossi, which, one other thing, which is not included in this law is the pilot provision, which Warren can tell you about, which is payment in lieu of taxes, which Rhinebeck adopted, I believe.
We adopted in Hyde Park. We haven't yet adopted one in Rhinebeck.
Oh, it was in Hyde Park. That's why I was looking for it in the Rhinebeck law. I couldn't find it.
That's why you couldn't find it.
Okay. But Warren can explain that to you because it's important because of the tax exemptions. But there is something called, there's a website which is the Central Hudson Hosting Capacity Map. And basically what it does is it tells you what the capacity is of the lines that run through the town and where the substations are and so on and so forth. And the problem with it is, and that's why I've been trying to get someone from Central Hudson to call me back, is none of this means anything to me. In other words, you look at these things and I couldn't tell you looking at this that, oh, well, this means that in this part of town, there could be a solar farm, and in that part, there couldn't be a solar farm, and so on and so forth. So I think that's another aspect of something that should be part of a public hearing, which is an explanation, maybe ideally by somebody from Central Hudson who could go through and sort of explain all of that. So, are there any questions at this point?
Gillen, is it implicit in all three types that you mentioned, categories, of feedback, selling power back into the grid?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, with solar farms, first of all, that's what they're for.
Right.
But all of them, the law explicitly contemplates net metering arrangements. I mean, that's what it's.
There's some places it's prohibited, like Florida.
Not New York.
Good.
Not New York. That's what it's all about. Oh,
Can I be right? So you just answered one of the questions of the three that popped into my mind, but the two others were, for solar farms, do you anticipate site plan approval being part of the process?
Yeah, it would have to. Anything that has a special permit has to have site plan.
Has to have site plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And the other one is, as far as preserving prime farmland, do you have language in there that says, for instance, that the topsoil can't be stripped as part of construction of the solar
Yes,
farm?
there is language in there dealing with how the soil has to be dealt with, and the fact that you can't use pesticides and herbicides and all that stuff to do. Now, whether that is the best language or the only language, I can't say. I mean, I think that will, that among other things, the planning board may have extensive comments on this as well.
With regard to that, would there be enforcement powers for breaches of pesticides, herbicides, and so on?
Well, I put in general language in this draft, which simply says this is subject to the same enforcement as any other zoning law, but I don't know whether you need, I'd leave it to Warren as to whether you need other other enforcement language in
No,
there.
it's covered in here. We're fine on that.
Yeah. That-
Your timeline, sir?
Warren, what do you think the timeline is?
Well, you brought up some good points. There are going to be, you really do want to get the input from the public. I think your committee did a really good job on this. But there are a few issues that have to be resolved, such as the restrictions on size. What happened in Rhinebeck, to just give you, it sailed through Hyde Park without any problems, and we have several applications, and we're dealing with those in Hyde Park. We did, I thought, a much better job on the law in Rhinebeck, because we had a committee that worked on it, and we had some consultants that helped us through the process. So we had a better product, I thought, in Rhinebeck. And then we gave birth to the law, and we had several public hearings, and then we passed the law, and then we got sued. Because unfortunately, the first the first application was made like 3 days after the law was put into effect on property next to an attorney's house. So we should have put something in the law about that. But one of the complaints, and we did win the lawsuit. The law withstood judicial scrutiny. They're appealing it, but I think we'll be okay on appeal. But the complaint was that there wasn't enough public vetting, and you can never do enough. You have public hearings, and you hope people will come, and then you cite one of these things, and people say, well, where did this come from? Well, we had public hearings, but nobody told me. So the idea is to have as much outreach to make sure that people understand the law, that we have sufficient number of public hearings to discuss these issues. There are going to be issues with regard to visual impacts. There are going to be issues with regard to certain areas of the town where people may not want to have these. And rather than trying to legislate that at this point, I think it's a good idea to hear what the public has to say. And the law can evolve through the public hearing process. So it's going to take a little bit longer than it normally would. We did it fairly quickly in Hyde Park, a little bit longer in Rhinebeck. I think it's going to be a little bit longer here.
How long did it take in those other municipalities?
In Hyde Park, we had 2 public hearings. In Rhinebeck, we had 4.
But time-wise?
Well, it depends on, if you do it once a month or you do it, have special meetings. Usually, you can have special meetings. So we can get this thing passed, but I don't want it to be rushed through, so people say, we didn't get an opportunity to look at that. And no matter what you do, people are always going to say, well, we didn't know anything about the public hearing. So you do the best you can. But rather than try to address all of these issues, and I'm going to take a more careful look at it, I'd like to hear what NYSERDA has to say. I want to hear what Ken has to say. If we could come up with a finished product that's ready to put out to the public by next month, say, and then we can start the public hearing process and hear what people have to say and encourage people to talk about issues such as restrictions on signs. Let them know that this is an issue that we couldn't completely resolve. Are there areas in the town where you don't want to see these things, where it's important not to have them? If there's an historical district in town or a critical environmental area or something like that. So I would think if we did it that way, you're talking about maybe 4 months to go through the process, maybe a little bit longer. You can have special meetings that will expedite things. And I think it's a good idea to have, we had an expert from the industry help us and also appear at the public hearing. There's a lot of questions which I can't answer, you can't answer, we're not experts in that. So if we can find, I may be able to locate somebody that can come to at least one of our public hearings and answer some of the technical questions that people have that we may not be equipped to answer.
Yeah, that's why I think also if you could get someone from NYSERDA.
That'd be great if they're willing to do that.
If they're willing to come up here. Well, they certainly their website seems to indicate that they're prepared to go.
Well, what they say on the website and what they're willing to do are 2 different things.
Yeah, but I agree. But I think that, as I say, I think you also need to tell people, because people are going to, one of the questions that people are going to ask, and it's a question that I don't know the answer to, because completely, I know a little bit, is, people are going to want to know, okay, well, how does this benefit me? I mean, in other words, what can I do with that? And I think there are people who can answer that question and sort of give you, people can sort of say, okay, here we are at X latitude, and here's what a typical house uses, and here's what this costs, and here's what the benefits are, and here's what, and so on and so forth. I mean, there are formulas for all of that. But I think it would be important to talk people through that as well as part of it.
Absolutely. I think the other thing that people should know, we're in Rhinebeck, the person with a group of people that sued the town, that project still has not been approved. It's going through the planning board process. And the tools that we had in the law have really helped in terms of evaluating the environmental and the visual impacts. They've been required to do visual impact studies, even a sound study. They're claiming that it made a humming noise. We weren't sure that that was really important. But I can tell you that utilizing this, it's a very rigorous process. And this is a solar farm. This is not a small scale. And it's conceivable that there may be what we call a positive environmental impact statement that has to be drafted. But if nothing else, they've really vetted the environmental issues very carefully with the tools that we have in this law. And one of the things that the judge found in upholding our law was that there's so much in the law which allows the town on a case-by-case basis to evaluate the impacts, that she found that to be important in rejecting the idea that we didn't do a comprehensive enough environmental analysis of the law. So.
Well, one other thing that I should say we allowed for, which is not I found in one law, and I thought it's a good idea, is solar carports.
I'd never seen that. I saw that. I wasn't.
Well, we have some pictures of them, but if you think of something like the CVS parking lot, for example, or the Grand U, or whatever it's called now, parking lot, you could put you can put solar panels sort of over the parking spaces. Cars park beneath them. I mean, they're pretty unattractive anyway, and so in a sense, it's perfect space because it's space which can't be used for anything else. So that's in there also as something that's permitted, because I thought that was kind of
very innovative.
Good idea.
You can see the headline already.
I just wanted to ask a question. The technology is evolving very rapidly.
We know that. We're aware of that.
Tiles and so on. And I haven't seen the draft, but I would suggest that there be language that permits the law to evolve in recognition of the technological advances that are coming, because as prices drop and things become economically feasible. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, we were aware of that, and that was one of the considerations when we did it in Rhinebeck. You can always, once you draft something like this and put it into effect, it's not ingrained in stone. After you have experience with the law or new technologies come out, you can take another look at it, and it goes before the planning board, and the planning board says, hey, why didn't you require them to do this or that? And then we realized that there were things that we may want to amend the law. So this could be, zoning laws to a certain extent are living, breathing documents. They're not immutable. So
that's my copy.
But it's hard to anticipate what may happen in the future. So we did the best we could.
And here are some other documents which just
I have
provide.
I have the pilot stuff. I'll just tell you quickly with the pilot. If you're confused now, you're going to be more confused. The pilot program, basically, to encourage solar facilities, there's an exemption under the real property tax law for solar facilities from property taxes. It's the taxes, it's the increase in the value of the property by virtue of the solar improvements on the property. So it's not like you put $100,000 worth of solar improvements and then you add that to the $200,000 of the property and they get an exemption on that. It's only for that difference. And to encourage the facilities, I think it's a 10-year exemption, if I remember, from property taxes. And it's a sliding scale, if I remember correctly, also. But you can opt out of unless the municipality opts out, they will receive the exemption. And what we decided to do in Hyde Park was to allow the exemption for everything except for solar farms, which are commercial in nature. I'll give you documentation on that, because that's another thing that we have to consider whether we want to pass that, because it should be passed very shortly after we pass the solar law, if we are going to have what's known as a pilot plan, which means that if they are exempt from the taxation for the commercial facilities, they're required to enter into a pilot agreement with the town to pay not all of the taxes, but a certain percentage of the increase in taxes. What we did in Rhinebeck, in Hyde Park, was 75%. That's been criticized as a little bit too high. NYSERDA has just come out with their own recommendations, and I think I have copies of that, so we should look at that. And they're based on the megawatt output of the facility. So, and that's more user-friendly. It's more friendly to the industry. They claim that they can't make a profit on this if they have to pay high taxes. So I'll give you material on that. We don't have to make any decisions on that, but if you read some of the stuff, you'll get a better understanding of what that is. So I'm just going to give you a set of those, in case you don't have enough to read.
Some just additional material to distribute to the board.
How does this handle other forms of renewable energy? Does this law address that? Or do we have to do other laws for windmills and other sources of renewable?
Let's do other laws. That's the next project.
The committee was taxed with 3 separate parts. The first part was solar, because that tends to be, we've already had requests from various different areas to do something with it. The second part is signage. I believe that's what you're going to undertake next.
Because there is a law governing windmills already, so that.
And the third part will be to look at windmills.
I
know some other towns have had issues with that.
Oh, yeah, that could be a serious issue because of the visual impacts of those. And I don't know if you're aware, but NYSERDA does now have just produced a model law for wind energy. So I'm going to try to get that material, and we can take a look at that and see what they do.
And these will be 3 separate local laws?
Correct.
Is that the way it goes?
The sign law has to be amended too.
To do what no one quite knows.
Well, tell me about it. I'm dealing with it. There's been some recent court decisions about constitutional rights and violation by municipalities. So we want to take a look at our sign laws to make sure they don't violate constitutional prohibitions. But trying to figure out the recent Supreme Court case. If you can figure out, you're a better person than I am.
Okay, George?
We thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very well.
So I'll take a look at this, maybe we can shoot towards the next meeting.
We thank the committee very much for their efforts. I know it's been a while in getting everything together, and a lot of work went into it, and we truly appreciate the effort.
Thank you.
Next is our landfill was closed many years ago. And up until about 3 or 6 years ago, I think, it was required to go through an annual inspection. There are certain monitoring requirements that have to be done. As of 6 years ago, because we met all of the requirements over a number of years, they then set the limit at every 3 years for monitoring the landfill. This is the third year. And we need to monitor it, and it needs to be done by May 30th of this year. So I need to ask the board for approval. We have a quote here for the costs involved in that, and they are rather involved. They are, for the groundwater and surface water quality monitoring, the estimated cost for this task is $11,590. For the quarterly explosive gas sampling, estimated cost is $1,600. For the quarterly cap inspections, the estimated cost is $1,700. So the total for the project itself is $14,890.
Who does it, George?
There are certain firms that do it. There's one that we've employed over the past.
Oh, Morris doesn't do that?
They have another firm that does
Oh,
it.
okay, good.
They don't do it themselves. So it's something we need to do, and it's something that has to be done here by the end of May, and we haven't got a lot of time, so I ask for the board's approval to appropriate that money to do the monitoring.
Make a motion to approve it.
Made by Ralph Fidelli, seconded by
I'll second.
John Merwin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Just a general announcement, the Dutchess County Office for the Aging will be holding a free senior citizen picnic on Wednesday, June 13th at 12 o'clock at the Pine Plains Lions Club Pavilion, which is located on 82 Beach Road. Prior registration is required. We will post it on the website, and that telephone number. Yes, Ralph and I are certainly.
We'll be there.
Yes. We're registered members of this elite club here, so. Anybody who's interested in that can check that out on the website and make the call and register for that. Also, rather short notice, but tomorrow is bulk trash day. Every year, twice a year, the town and the village get together and allow people to bring in various different items that they wish to get rid of, or any type of trash, not garbage as such, but other forms of could be appliances, that type of thing, that they wish to get rid of. There are charges for them. The best way that you can find out about those actually is in this week's newspaper. There is a list in there of what the costs, what the charges are for each of those. Yes.
Am I correct, that does not include household chemicals?
Or paints.
No, it does not paints, anything of that nature, anything hazardous that we can't take. There is.
The county.
Dutchess
The
County
does that.
Twice a year.
The county twice a year does that. And we
They
did
just
have,
had
we
one.
just
They
had
just
one a short time ago. It was posted, it was posted on the website, and it was posted on the bulletin boards here.
Columbia County's having one also on the 28th
They require
Is-
proof
is-
of residency.
Yeah, residency, I'm sure it is.
for property.
Do they do it for each municipality, or do they do it
They're
countywide?
No,
countywide.
it's countywide.
Yeah.
Wish I'd known about that.
Well, if you go on their website, you can see when the next one is. which-
Yep.
Where do people actually bring their things, or they're picked up?
This is going down, it's going to be down, Bob can tell you very well, it's down at the highway garage. right on South Center Street. There'll be people there to assist with unloading whatever you bring in. It's from 8 to 12 tomorrow. I know that they don't take flat screen TVs. I'm trying to think what else. Certain computer.
No electronics.
Yeah. Electronics, yes. Because of the difficulty in getting rid of those. But I think otherwise, most things are on the list are okay. Next, we, Warren, do you have anything?
I have
open
one
session?
10-minute executive session to talk about a litigation personnel matter.
Yes.
And
Yep.
that's all I have.
Okay.
I won't keep you long.
All right. Can I have a resolution to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Made by John Merwin, seconded by Ralph Fidelli.
Do a roll call. George? John?
Aye.
Yes.
Ralph? Chris?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
It'll take me another couple seconds. It doesn't snow.
Stay home,
Where did you buy the helmet? I think they even have them that way. I thought that you can get them at Amazon. You don't have Amazon? My ex-husband doesn't either. He's so excited to get back to the table. Jump in your chair.
All right. Can I have a motion to come back into session?
So,
Made by John Maywood, seconded by Chris Tenen. Next on the agenda is Marilyn Calaveras.
Okay, I'll try.
Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor.
Aye.
Marilyn?
Okay, I don't actually know where to start, but this is about broadband and asking the board, you guys, to start the process of looking into getting broadband. It's a big issue here. In 2015, the governor gave $500 million to give unserved communities broadband. The towns of Hillsdale, Ancram, Copake, and Austerlitz, 3 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 years ago, formed committees to investigate the issue. They're in the process now. They've got, I don't know, 75% of their areas filled. They did the research. There were committees in each of those towns. I went to a meeting and listened to the progress that they've made. And I think we should do the same thing. I don't think we have to wait for the comprehensive plan because it's taken 3 years and it's going to take 2 more years to get the broadband installed. The company, we have actually received some, supposedly according to this website, received almost $33,000, the town of Northeast, from the state grants. This was probably 2017, and a total investment of $41,000. That means the money that's coming from the companies that are installing the broadband. The town doesn't have to pay anything, as I understand it. But we have to go, I think they went door by door to find out who doesn't have it. My neighbor doesn't have it. I have it, my neighbor does not have it. So I would like the committee to start the process. John, I know something about this, I don't know what you know, John, but to form a committee to look into, maybe talk to the people up in these 4 towns and see what they did, what did they do? We have names, Joan and I Joan did most of the good notes. Go ahead, Joan.
May I? Yeah.
She and I.
I did the research very quickly, and it's of course voluminous, right? I would say, I don't know that you may well be aware of this program that was set up by the governor in 2015, which appropriated whatever it was, 500 million, right? And it is now in phase 3. There's phase 1 and phase 2, which appropriated different amounts. The rewards made, John, you look like you
Keep going.
know that.
Yeah.
Awards made in each of those phases to different regions throughout the state, to different economic regions throughout the state, Mid-Hudson being one of those regions. If you go in, if everybody's looking puzzled, so I don't know whether Northeast Militian has already been the recipient of some of this money or not, but
It says that we have
it said it was awarded. It doesn't.
$33,000.
You received it.
I have no knowledge of us receiving anything.
It wouldn't come through the town. It would just be who applies for these grants are the companies, the providers, the companies would have to apply for a grant to.
This come from the cable companies?
Well,
Not only
the internet providers or that run the lines, say, like, for example, like, these funds were available there's 2 pots of money. One for underserved communities where they have internet, but maybe it's not high speed, or unserved. So if it's unserved, the company, the provider would have to apply to the state to then get state funds to offset the cost of running that, say, fiber network down a long driveway to someone's home.
And there's a reverse auction to award those sums of money.
And right, and
But the sums of money are going to the companies.
to the companies,
Not to us.
not to the town.
Okay, which is
It would
why
not
we
come
might
into-
not know.
It would not come into the
Okay,
town
because it
coffers.
wouldn't have come here.
But
Whatsoever.
the towns, those 4 towns in Columbia County have initiated some, I don't know
So-
exactly what.
I will say Columbia County did a very good job. They were very well organized in their broadband committee. They had over 30 people on this committee. And the biggest thing they did was this information for who's eligible and who's unserved and underserved is provided to the state, but it's the information is not accurate 100% to the actual conditions on the ground. So what they did was they went out and had, I think they used surveys. I'm not sure the exact method they did, but they generated their own maps of who was unserved or underserved, supplied that information, and they were able to get, they're very, very successful in getting more money,
Supplier to this.
more money provided to the companies to, run the cables.
In some cases, they said it was one street, and depending on which company was installing, it could be copper wiring or fiber optics, is that the right word?
Yeah.
But they were supposed to be at 99%, right? At some recent time, but it's gonna take 2 years longer to get to 99%. It's taken 5 years to get this done. So if we're gonna wait for the comprehensive plan to get finished, to do anything, I think you guys should be discussing this and setting up committees. There were tons of people, wonderful people at that NECC meeting that would be willing to work on this. At least talk to them. I can give you names of the people that were there. Joan took wonderful notes. I did not take wonderful notes. And talk to them and see what the process was, so to see if we can get into this. That $32,000 was for 13 units. Pine Plains got $200 and some thousand. Yeah,
Probably what we need to do is send a message out to the people in the town. Do you have broadband service?
how are we gonna send
And-
that out?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm just saying, is that somehow we have to find out who doesn't have it and who would want to have it, and then we could proceed from there.
Isn't that one of the issues that came up, John? The mapping of,
Right.
Of this, the
It's
difficulty?
it's a very laborious
Right.
task, but I agree that, we could, Dutchess County as a whole, but, Northeast we could benefit from this. If you said you had a lot of people, that you took names down and interested in doing this, if you can come together or put together, 6 people that are willing to serve on a committee, I would be willing to be the 7th. I don't necessarily want to chair the committee, but I would be willing to serve on it.
Okay.
I would think that just being aware of what's going on as a group, not just the individual here and there, will potentially give us more control over it.
Sure. I'd be happy to be a member, sit in, however you want to structure it. I need the help in formulating, getting together a team. And I don't want to be the chair of it, like I said, but I'd be happy to be on the committee.
Okay, I'll try to get some.
Can I make a suggestion? Talk to Art Bass in Ankrum, went through this maybe 2 years ago. I own a property in Ankrum that is not served by internet, and it's a real problem, makes the property less marketable for a renter. It's a great house. And they went through the whole thing, so rather than starting from scratch and trying to figure out, go talk to people that have
That's
already
what I
done
would
this.
su- right.
I think that's what she's suggesting.
Yeah.
And Art is very accessible, and you could point the committee that you're offering to head up or assist with, so that we don't do it in a permanent way, we get the benefit of their experience.
At Bassin, that's how I got the message about this meeting that was being held in, were we in Copac, is that where we were? In Copac, where there were tons of people, I mean, more than 80 probably, getting an update on what was going on.
Right.
So, and then each representative from those 4 towns, I don't know if it was all of them, but spoke about what was going on.
Right.
And how it would take another probably 2 years to get everybody, or almost everybody, connected.
Okay.
So,
And actually, I learned about that meeting because I'm on the town of Copac's email.
right, me too,
Yeah.
that's another thing we have to look into. Somebody needs to talk to Bassin about what that process involves. Edie's always talking about the lack of communication with the community. That is the perfect way to communicate with the community, is what did Bassin do? George, you probably could get in, I probably couldn't get in. Didn't you say that he was hard to?
No, he's easy to talk to, but they're in the email, I've been pestering the village and the town for 2 years on this, that they have on their homepage a thing, you just go and sign up. I think, Ralph, you signed up, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I signed
And you
up.
get lost dogs and
We have
storm
that.
warnings and road closures. For example,
We have that.
Bankrum the other day had a state of emergency, no cars permitted on the road because there were so many trees and wires down. And church suppers, fundraisers, library events, and so on. And it's a wonderful thing. It is not costly. It doesn't require special software. You can do it off of any email account. And you just need somebody that's willing to put the things in there.
It has town board
And
meetings,
it
minutes,
builds community.
everything.
People get to know about things. It's a wonderful thing.
John will tell you, but we're already working on it
Good.
Yay,
Thank
yay,
you.
yay.
of that nature.
I'll stop pestering you when you get it up and going. Sorry.
One thing we're looking at doing is, which I literally made it today, is the shell of it, is a Facebook page for the town. It's the Town of Northeast, NY. And we would be, for the purpose of sharing minutes, maybe putting these videos, once they're edited, up on there, and community events, announcements for openings on various boards.
There are a
And
lot of people that don't use Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's one thing where I'm kind of taking that on to create that. If someone, else wants to do an email, that's fine too.
We are creating an email base at this point so that we can do email blasts.
That's terrific.
Excellent, thank you. Well,
Have you not been receiving the emails
I'm
that I
sorry.
send periodically? It says admin.
I signed up for that list a long time ago. I don't believe, I'll check.
I don't think I've.
I'll check.
That's how I knew the meeting was
I
today.
got them,
Okay.
Because I got the email. They
All
come
right,
from
so-
admin,
I get
There,
so
it does get through to some.
it's what it's, yeah.
Well, I think Peter's name showed up as unsolicited or something at one time, so
Admin,
unsubscribed. I don't think, Peter, your name is on that list anymore. I have the list of everybody who I send that to, and I think yours at one point said unsubscribed, so you might want to just go on the town website and
And
sign
that's-
up again for it.
One reason everybody signing in on the sign-in sheet should also be putting down their email so that they can be put on that list.
okay. That would be great, thank you very much. I didn't know that, I didn't realize.
You know,
that.
we're definitely trying to
Okay.
communicate much more with everybody.
No, we've been
Keep
working
everybody
on
in
that,
the
trying to
loop.
get
Yes.
a better list. Good. Supervisors report. Okay. We have here a special abstract dated March 26, 2018, totaling $7,865.87, broken down as follows. A fund, $3,220.95. B fund, $32.32. DD fund, $4,402.45. Payroll TNA, $210.15. Can I have a motion to accept the special abstract?
So moved.
Made by John Merwin, seconded by Ralph Adeli. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have an abstract dated April 20th, 2018, totaling $264,315.92, broken down as follows. A fund, $198,402.42. B fund, $3,069.42. Special unemployment, $1,296. DB fund, $61,337.93. Payroll TNA, $210.15. Can I have a motion to accept the abstract?
So moved.
Made by Ralph Adeli, seconded by
Second.
John Merwin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have a budget adjustment, number 2 for 2018. This is DB Fund, Highway Town Outside. We have an expense increase of $49,398, less a revenue increase of $49,398. Can I have a motion to accept the budget adjustment?
So moved.
Made by Ralph Adeli, seconded by Chris Kennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is voucher committee
You gotta
for
pass it around,
May.
no?
Pardon me? No, not this. This
No?
doesn't go around.
Oh, okay.
Voucher committee for May 2018. That's Ralph Fidelli and John Midwood. And last but not least, we have approval of the minutes from previous meetings. And I don't know about anybody else. I did have a couple of things in here very minor, but
I didn't have anything.
I found, grammatical issue. On the paragraph that says, a fuel storage facility, it should be sand and salt, it just says sand, a salt.
Okay.
Here it is.
these, I think, are the only small things that I had on there. I don't believe I had anything. The figure is the figure here just shows it was 60 by 28 is in there, and it should be 128.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meetings with George and John's
Corrections.
Second?
Second.
John Midwood made the motion, Chris Kennan seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You don't need it because you're still under the amount, so it doesn't matter. Okay, general comment period. Do we have any?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
With the solar panels and that, I'm just curious, what did the village have to do when they put in their solar panels? You know, by Eddie
Well,
Jones?
I don't know what their provisions are. I mean, the village at that time, may have had separate, things that, provisions under which they did that. We didn't have those provisions in our zoning code, so.
So it wouldn't have been beneficial to go and ask them, what did you guys do to help try to figure out what?
Well, that's why we're working on, zoning codes and everything together now, and a comprehensive plan.
It was probably done 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
The person who led the charge on it has moved to Vermont.
Yeah, you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
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 He was a
In the
spearhead.
municipality, they weren't subject to planning board approvals and so.
Right. They might fall under that Monroe
I don't
document.
think there was any law or any approvals.
They just went and did it.
They can do it, yeah. legally. And the village is a beneficiary economically.
There's a possibility of building neighborhood, small solar farms, I guess they wouldn't be called. I've read about that once, that you could do it a neighborhood. So you wouldn't have this big, ugly, you could do in a smaller scale.
Well, I think all types of systems are going to have to be looked into.
Yeah, that's what this solar law does,
Yeah.
is codify all of that.
Yeah. Everyone on the board here is going to have to go into the solar law and take a look at it. There's a lot of things that we have to decide, what we really want this to do. Anything else? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, wait, no?
My usual question about the executive session.
Yes.
So is the litigation that you were discussing currently in court?
Is currently pending, yes.
So it's on a docket?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Can you tell me if the town instigated that lawsuit or the other way around?
The other way around.
Okay, thank you. And was anything else discussed in executive session?
The only other thing that was discussed, we did bring in the assessor to explain to us about a tax cert case that's going on, and what the litigation is involved with that.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, motion to adjourn. You're usually the first one who makes that motion. Anybody going to second?
I'll say.
Second.
They'll say no, I won't.
Take your choice.
Aye, all,
George, you gotta vote.
yeah. Pass. 7 o'clock reservation.